Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's worship service. We are grateful that you are here with us today. My name is Najla Smith, and I am the coordinator for today here at All Souls Church, where our mission is to seek truth, practice love, and celebrate life. Whether you're joining us for the first time or you've been a member for many, many years, you are welcome here. Whatever faiths that you've known or whatever heritage, you're welcome here. Wherever you've come from, wherever you've been, you're welcome here. Whatever questions you hold, whatever truths you seek, whatever sorrow that you have known, whatever joy has filled your heart, whoever you are, whomever you love, you are welcome here. Now we have a few announcements today. I call your attention to the notice in our program here, in our order of service, but I'd like to show you a few that may not be inside. So there's a community song circle hosted by Singing Resistance Sioux Falls. It will be this coming Thursday, August 13th, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at St. Mark's Lutheran Church, and that's at 2001 South Elmwood Avenue. They say, gather with us to learn songs of resistance, ground with our neighbors, and plan our next actions. All are welcome. Also, the encouragement time here at All Souls Library has changed to Wednesday at 7 p.m. Again, all are welcome. And then the Pask Project Community Picnic. This will be at the Upper Shelter at Tuthill Park on Sunday, August 16th from 1 to 5 p.m. Come for lawn games, food, and to meet people working in reproductive justice. Feel free to bring food to share and help build our community. As well, would you like me, Carol? Would you like me to announce this?
Oh, yes.
Okay. If you saw next to the program when you came in, there was a save the date also for that same date of Sunday, August 16th. This would be after that Pask Project Community Picnic at 5 p.m. Carol Flower and her two sons are having a memorial picnic to honor and celebrate Larry Flower's life. Larry passed away last year on this date, and they cordially invite you to join them for food and fellowship.
Also pray for a good day.
And pray for beautiful weather. So there's an RSVP if you'd like. This little handout is at that front desk when you come in. Make sure to see that. And let's see if I am missing anything. Just also big thanks to everyone who helped with cleaning projects yesterday and to everyone who brings snacks for our fellowship time and helps with cleanup after the service. Tuesday, August 11, there will be a church board meeting open to all. And let's see, Sunday today at 2 p.m., the Orpheum's Disney's Frozen Junior is going on. And last but not least, How to Think Ethically About Global Issues by Dr. Stephen Minister. Last Sunday's speaker is currently on sale. No discount code is needed. So I think that should be all of our announcements for today. And make sure to join us for coffee and circle discussion after today's service. Are there any other announcements that I missed? If not, we'll hand it over to Carol. Thank you. Now we'll turn to page or reading 461 for the chalice lighting. We must be saved. Nothing worth our doing is completed in our lifetime. Therefore, yes, nothing true or beautiful or good makes complete sense in any immediate context of history. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. No virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or foe as from our own. Beautiful. Thank you for repeating or reading what was in italics. I didn't see anybody with their books out, so I thought, oh, maybe I started too soon, so I'll just do it all. But you guys were right on. Okay, and now we'll pass it back to Carol. Oh, we're going to go to number 39, excuse me, for our opening song. Okay, now we will turn to reading 440 in the back of the same hymnal, and this time I will read the regular font, and if you will echo in italics, that would be great. From the fragmented world. From the fragmented world of our everyday lives, we gather together in search of wholeness. Yet we know that no branch is utterly severed from the tree of life that sustains us all. We would hold fast to all of good we inherit, even as we would leave behind us the outworn and the false. Let us labor in hope for the dawning of a new day, without hatred, violence, and injustice. In this spirit we gather. In this spirit we pray. Okay, thank Thank you, everyone. And we'll go ahead and do our story for all ages here. Do I have? There we go. Let's hope this is the good one. All right, I chose this story today because it's quite simple, but I think it's a good message for all of us, even as adults. We need to get happy. Squabble less, share more. Sniffle less, snuggle more. Grumble less, giggle more. Zone out less. I know a few people that could zone out less. And we should zoom around more. Pick less, plant more. Shout less, sing more. Grab less, give more. Tease less, tickle more. Sulk less, sparkle more. Worry less, wonder more. Fearless forevermore. Be strong. Be happy. The end. I just think that it's a good reminder for all of us. We could spend a lot of time sulking or a lot of time grumbling when we could be zooming around and singing and being with each other more. And so it's a good reminder for these little guys, but also for us big guys. Thank you. Now we'll sing the children down. And now it's time for our joys and concerns. Every Sunday in this congregation, we welcome anyone with a joy or concern that they'd like to share to come up, pick a stone, and then share that joy or concern, then drop that stone into the bowl of water next to it and let that just ripple out into the universe. And so I will start with a joy here. I'm just very happy that we've had such nice weather today. Is maybe a little different, but we had a great day yesterday and we were able to hang out with family and that was wonderful. Anyone else can come up and grab the microphone.
Hi, I'm Dan. I've been gone for like 7 weeks in eastern Washington, which is really filled with smoke these days. Our cabin was on a lake right on the other side of the mountain, and back of our cabin was a big fire called the Little Giant Fire, and it was more giant than little. And the smoke got so bad sometimes you couldn't even see to the end of the dock. So we did have very smoky days until the wind shifted, and then it was quite pleasant, and then the smoke would come back. Lots of people have been affected by fires in Oregon and Washington, lots of places. So anyway, the year of the smoke. But it was good. It's good to go, and we had many good times with family and friends. And John Beringer and his wife came out for a week, and he'll be sharing with our speaker today. Anyway, it was good. It was good to be away, but it's really great to be back and among friends. So thank you for being here. It's good to have a family here to return home to. So anyway, thankful.
Hi, I'm John, and many of you have seen me before. I'm actually a member of Spirit of Peace, but this is kind of my second home. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate you all. You make me feel welcome, and there's a lot of good things going on. And when we were visiting Dan, my wife got sick, and without a heartbeat, we loaded her up, took her to the hospital. She was fine, but so we got to miss the smoke and visit a hospital and hang out with Dan a little bit.
Hi, I'm Scott. Like most of us, I have neighbors, and one of them decided is a construction man. And for some reason, he just called me up one afternoon and says, "Hi, I just been talking to a apartment manager, and he has 4 chicks in his office right now. He has no clue what to do." So Janet went and rescued them. They're either very young or they're banshees, we can't tell which. But I did find this morning that one of them is a rooster. I forgot to say, if anyone needs some extra chickens for their flock, they're not at their max already, I got a couple extra.
If there's no one else, then I will place a final stone here for all the joys and concerns that were left unsaid today. And now we'll take a moment of silent reflection on those joys and concerns. Thank you. And now we will move on to our second song. It is number 66 in the Gray Hymnal, When the Summer Sun is Shining. Thank you. Now we'll turn to the next reading here. It's number 602 in the very back of our hymnal. And again, I'm going to put you to work for you to read the italics, okay? It is, if there is to be peace. If there is to be peace in the world, if there is to be peace in the nations, if there is to be peace in the cities, if there is to be peace between neighbors, if there is to be peace in the home, that one was good. I like that one. Well, and now it is time to welcome our presenter today, Ted Muenster, and he is going to be interviewed by John Beringer, talking about life's a trip, including his own. Welcome.
So Ted and I could probably go on for 2 hours if you have the time, but JC promised that at the given time allotment, she's going to give us the wrap it up sign. So we'll just go until we're out of time. For those of you who know me, my mouth is always here and my brain is over here. I'm all over. So I apologize for that. And so I'm going to read the introduction. One time Alan suggested they were looking for speakers, and I suggested Ted. And through his humbleness, he said, well, what do I have to offer? But he agreed, and he thought we could do it as a Q&A. So Ted, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Okay. So, I'll go back. Dan Reiki and I often talk about that every person has a life story, and they're all valid. Through our jobs, we've encountered thousands of people. I've never met anyone with the same life story. John Denver had a lyric that was important to me, yet as different as we are, we're all the same. I first met Ted when I was an 18-year-old freshman at the University of South Dakota. I was young and dumb, and my advisor said, take this introduction to American government, and in he walked. And I wasn't a great student, but I showed up, and I did all the work, and I got my B, and I moved on. But throughout my entire life, I always remember Ted as a nice, decent, caring guy. Jump ahead 50 years, and through circumstances and friends and situations, our lives have come back together. And I consider him an example and a mentor and a friend. So, Ted is modest, but he's been a college professor, a college administrator, a development officer raising millions of dollars at the University of South Dakota, a chief of staff for South Dakota Governor Dick Knipe, a staff member for other elected officials. He's been in private business, a candidate for the U.S. Senate, a director of public affairs, a college dean. When he worked for the governor, he helped develop a 4-year medical school, reorganized government, Native American issues, and the 1972 Rapid City flood. I could go on and on with his accomplishments. Those are just a few. When I think of kindness and spirituality and soulness and love for fellow man and public service, Ted comes to mind. And I think he might have even called himself a Unitarian for a while, or maybe a Unitarian, and whatever that means. So, when Alan asked Ted if he could do this, he said, yeah, maybe we could do it as a Q&A, so you're stuck with me. But, so Ted, we all go through our own religious phases, spiritual journeys. You were raised in a typical Midwest Christian environment like many of us, but yet you gravitated to Unitarianism. Here we are today. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be here. I wanted to make sure that he was involved here because if this whole thing bombs, why he's partly responsible. And I'm not going to change your grade to an A. I just want you to know that. Well, John's right. I come from a farm background in a community called Beatrice, Nebraska. Anybody ever heard of that? South of Lincoln, within a stone's throw of Kansas. In my grade school, we had to learn the Kansas State Song as a kind of a goodwill mission to our neighbors. Anyway, my family had been members of what was known there as the First Christian Church, which is the official name is Disciples of Christ. Some of you may be aware of that. There's a church here in Sioux Falls, or it was. I think it's still there. It's kind of a vanilla, mid-level Protestant faith as I remember it. Anyway, a big church, big physical church, and the Presbyterians had a big church, the Methodists, the Episcopalians, the Catholics, pretty much every Christian denomination you can think of had a big physical presence in the town of about 12,000 people. Anyway, I inherited that faith, and I was baptized, and that's one of those faiths where the minister submerges you in a tank of water up above the altar, and the minister is kind of a stern character, and I was 12 years old, something like that, and I was kind of afraid of him, and I thought, am I in trouble here wading into this pool of water where this guy is going to hold me underwater? And but fortunately I survived, and so I was baptized, and my mother was the church secretary for many years, and anyway, I went to Sunday school and all had the lessons from the Bible and whatnot, and anyway, I never thought much about it other than that was something that I inherited, and then I went off to college at the University of Nebraska, and never thought much about my religious orientation, and then during that time that I was in college, one of my high school classmates got married in Tulsa, Oklahoma, great liberal center of the country, and he said, now this is a Unitarian church that this is all going to happen in, and I thought, well, that's fine. I didn't know what that was, but I thought it's okay. It's not my decision. So 3 of us high school buddies, then in college, drove down to Tulsa, and we went to the wedding, and the Unitarian Church on Peoria Street. Anybody know where that is on Peoria Street in Tulsa? Are you familiar where that is? Anyway, I don't know if the Unitarian Church is still there or not, but it was then. And the first Unitarian event I'd ever been to, and I thought it was fine. And the thing that amazed me is that when the service, or the marriage service was over, there was a brief recess, and suddenly they opened the side windows into an event room, and that's where the reception was held. So it was kind of a combination in the church sanctuary and the special events room, and they had alcohol, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is not the Christian church that I'm familiar with. But being an adventurous college student, I participated in that opportunity, and anyway, I was kind of fascinated by the whole thing, and then a little bit later on, a couple of years later, I was a student at the University of Nebraska, and I discovered that there's a Unitarian church in Lincoln, and 50th and 8th Street. Some of you may know where that is if you're familiar with Lincoln. Anyway, there was a particularly charismatic minister by the name of Charles Stephen there, and so I started to go to that church just to see what it was all about, and in fact, I got up early in the morning, and I went, and the college students, generally speaking, don't get up early on Sunday morning and march off to church, but I did, partly because there was, before the service every Sunday, there was a professor of keyboard from UNL who would play a 30-minute little concert on a harpsichord, and I was fascinated by the harpsichord, and anyway, I went as much for that little concert as anything. But the thing I remember most about going to those church services was a couple of times a month on Sunday, Charles Stephen, the minister, would invite in somebody who was from a different faith, different kinds of Jewish people, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, just about any kind of faith that you would find represented in a city of a couple 100,000 people with a major university. And so it was fascinating for me to sit in the audience, in the congregation, and listen to learn about other faiths. And it was like going to a college seminar. And I thought, boy, that's worth my time. And my mother used to give me fits because I wouldn't go to her particular church where they'd have the same thing every Sunday. And I used to say to my mother, I get it, I understand it. I've read the Sermon on the Mount, I understand it. I live that way, and I don't need to be told that every Sunday. I need to be able to learn something when I go to church. And anyway, my mother, I think, forgave me, as mothers tend to do. But that was kind of how I came to spend some time with the Unitarian community. And then later on, we moved to South Dakota. And there was to Vermilion, and there was I think there was a Unitarian group there, like a little gathering that I never got involved with for whatever reason. Are you familiar with that group? Fellowship, yeah, okay. And anyway, I just, for one reason or another, never got involved in it. But another little anecdote, we later moved to Pierre, where I worked in the governor's office, as John said. And one of my many duties was I drafted all the proclamations that the governor would proclaim. And, almost every day there's a proclamation or somebody's 100th birthday or apple pie day in Cresbard or something of that nature. Anyway, so I was the drafter of gubernatorial proclamations, and we had a letter that came in, and this is about 1972, along in there, 73, from a group of people in Sioux Falls who said they were ministers of various churches. That there was going to be a visiting evangelist, I guess it would be, who was coming to Sioux Falls to do a crusade, I suppose, or whatever they would call it, by the name of Reverend Moon. You remember Reverend Moon? The guy that married 800 people in Yankee Stadium at one time, kind of deal, a Korean evangelist sort of fellow. Anyway, I never heard of him, and I didn't know anything about him. So I dashed off a garden variety proclamation proclaiming this period to be the Reverend Moon Day in South Dakota. Well, that got into the media for some reason, and so then we started getting phone calls and nasty notes from the established religious groups here in Sioux Falls saying, this is outrageous, this guy's a charlatan, blah, blah, blah. And so the governor said to me, did you write this proclamation? And I said, well, yes. I said, I never heard of this Moon guy, and let alone his dance that he did with, but that's a different story. You got it, didn't you, huh? Well, thank you for that recognition. Anyway, so I had to march over to the Secretary of State's office, and proclamations are official state documents, and they are filed with the Secretary of State in South Dakota. So I had to march down the hall to the Secretary of State's office and say to the Secretary of State, I need to withdraw that proclamation that we did about Reverend Moon. And the Secretary of State, who was very bureaucratic, said, well, we need to do this and that, and there needs to be a justification and blah, blah, blah. And so I went through all that. And anyway, officially we withdrew the proclamation, and no longer did the state of South Dakota recognize and welcome Reverend Moon. And that's unification, exactly. Yeah. They call it it was the Unification Church. A lot of people confuse that. Maybe you've experienced that. If you say, well, I'm a Unitarian, they say, well, that's that crazy Korean guy that marries the Yankee Stadium full of... No, that's a different deal. Anyway, thank you for reminding me of that. But that was one of my little stories. But as time has gone on, as I have gotten older and being able to contemplate the world and creation, and the less I'm certain about any particular religious tradition, which I regard largely as cultural rather than theological. And but society needs that. A lot of people need that kind of reassurance. And in my experience, and as we have gotten reached out further and further into the universe with our scientific investigation, with the satellite telescopes and all of that, and we began to comprehend physically how the size of the universe and how I am incapable of coming to a definition about creation, frankly, because it goes on forever, and I can't contemplate something that has no limits. And but I have great respect for it, and I've concluded in my own mind that there is some creative initiating force that has created what we think of as the universe, and it's well beyond my capacity. But I can live my life with respect, and especially respecting other human beings and other traditions and other cultures. And I might finish with one little quick anecdote. As some of you know, our daughter, Mary Catherine, is the First Lady of the state of Illinois. And her husband, J.B. Pritzker, is a Reformed Jew. And so she went through the mikveh process of becoming Jewish officially in the Reformed tradition in Judaism. And of course, if there's a more Christian name than Mary Catherine, I don't know who that would be. But anyway, she goes by M.K., and she's known as M.K. in Illinois. But I just want to mention a quick little anecdote. Years ago, the now governor of Illinois, ran for Congress and ran for the Democratic nomination in this district, which included Evanston and part of Chicago and Skokie and that north side of the city. So I went back to see if I could help him with his campaign, and he took me to this was in December, and he took me to a Saturday morning observance for the Orthodox Jewish Center associated with Northwestern University. And we walked in, and of course, my son-in-law had his yarmulke on, and they had a little table there where there were some more yarmulkes, and so he said, put one of those on. So I put on a yarmulke on my head. First time I'd ever done that. I felt pretty good about it. Anyway, we went and sat down in the front row, and it was one of these, in the Orthodox Church, the Orthodox Jewish church, there was a curtain, and the women sit on one side, and the men sit on the other. And the rabbi comes in, and he's got this outfit on, long black jacket kind of thing. Anyway, so he's conducting the service. The women can hear it, but they can't see it. In other words, my daughter-in-law, or my daughter, doesn't like that. That's why they're in the Reformed department of the faith of Judaism. Anyway, and so he's up there, and he's the rabbi is speaking in Hebrew, and he gets the Torah out of the cabinet and unrolls it, altar type thing in front of the congregation, and then he takes a stylus. And I assume all of you know that the Hebrew people read from right to left, and so he's reading a few lines from the Torah on the right to left, and he goes to the end of the front row and hands it to a older gentleman who's got a prayer shawl and on, and he's very obviously very Orthodox. He gets up and he reads a couple of lines, and then he comes back and hands the stylus that they use to follow the words. And eventually they get to me, and I'm sitting in the front row there, and he hands me he reaches out and hands me the stylus, expecting me to get up and read from right to left in Hebrew. And I have trouble doing left to right in English. And so I said to the elderly gentleman, I said, I don't think I should do this. And he said, why? And I said, well, I'm a Gentile. He said, oh. And so anyway, then I handed the stylus off to my son-in-law, who can actually read Hebrew. And but that was one of my magic moments of religious liberalism. I've gone on too long answering your question here, but
You and I have a mutual friend, 84, health issues, dementia, and Ted doesn't have to, but when he's in town, he makes an effort to go visit this guy. And we met recently, and he was raised Catholic, I was raised Catholic, and he most always asks people, "Where is my soul? Will I go to heaven? What happens when I die?" And a lot of us were raised that way. How do you answer something like that?
well, for the most part, I say I don't know. And he's talking about Larry Pressler, and Larry was the incumbent Republican senator when I ran for the Senate as a Democrat, attempting to dislodge him. I came close, didn't quite win, no cigar. And anyway, that's a different story. But anyway, Larry and I become friends over the years, and I never had any personal issues with Larry. And he, you may remember, he ran as an independent several years ago for the U.S. Senate, attempting to essentially win his seat back. And I thought at the time both party candidates, the Democrat and the Republican, were not particularly thoughtful people. They were just mouthing the party line. And so I said to Larry one day, I ran into him at the Rotary Club in downtown Sioux Falls here in the Holiday Inn, where he was there as a visitor, and I was a member at the time. And I said, Larry, you make a lot more sense than either of the parties do in your campaign, and I'd be happy to circulate your petition to help you get on the ballot, so you have a voice in the campaign. And he gave me a copy of the petition, and I didn't think much of it other than I did circulate it. And one day I was a member of the Rotary Club in Vermilion, actually, at the time, and so at a Rotary meeting in Vermilion, I got up at the announcement moment and said, I have Larry Pressler's nominating petition here for the Senate. Anybody here wants to sign it, I'll be around after the meeting, and you can sign it to get him on the ballot. Well, there happened to be a reporter in the audience from the Associated Press who thought, well, that's kind of unique. Here's this known Democrat circulating Larry Pressler, still at that point a known Republican for the Senate. Anyway, it got onto the Associated Press wire, got onto the national wire. I think it was maybe this time of the year when things are slow, and so the media is looking for unusual stories. Anyway, I started getting phone calls from media people around the country why I was doing this. Of course, nobody in South Dakota paid any attention to it, properly so, I suspect. But anyway, Larry's a good guy, well-meaning. He and I share the fact that both of us are widowers at this stage of our lives, and that's part of what holds us together, I think. And partisanship goes way too far in this country. It's way too far. It's worse than the Packers and the Vikings by far. And anyway, I like Larry a lot, and I feel for him.
Throughout your career, you've always been known as a decent, steady, rock-centered guy. Do your growing up with Christian values, Unitarian, your spirituality, do they guide that, or where does goodness come from? At least
well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it comes from any one place. It's just I think it dawned on me many years ago that I've only got a short period of time on this planet, and that when I take my last breath, I want to be able to say, well, I did my best to make this a little better place than the way I found it in October of 1940. By the way, I was not responsible for the fall of France that happened in June of 1940, and I was born in October, so I just want to make that clear. Anyway, I just, to me, it makes a lot of sense. Do what you can to do for the most people, and keep your word, and generate hope and goodwill. And I've tried to do that. I'm just finishing my 86th year, and hopefully I have 2 or 3 more. So anyway, that's my answer.
We're probably getting close on time.
Yeah, I
So,
talk too much.
No, we could go on all day, but yeah, JC's giving us the rep signs. So
Well, thank you. I don't know if I've done anything to enlighten anybody about anything, but at my age, it's good to be invited to do anything. I'm a member of a couple of 3 coffee groups in Vermilion every morning. A bunch of old guys like me trying to pretend like we're still relevant, and generally speaking, we're not. But we like to pretend we are. So thank you for the invitation.
thank you, Ted.
Well, I think I can speak for everyone and say thank you so much. Very interesting conversation. Will you be staying around for circle discussion? Fantastic news. So we can continue to hear more stories here from Ted. But now it is time for our offering. And let me see where half of our collection plate today will support the Rosebud Community Sundance program. So we'll go ahead and pass around the offering plate and know that half of the proceeds will be going to that and half to support our church. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your generosity. Now we'll read together the words to receive the offering. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. Thank you. Now we have our last song of today, and it is number 166 in our gray hymnal. The years are coming. closing reading is number 702 in the back of our hymnal. And I get to do all the work this time. Where hate rules, let us bring love. Where sorrow, joy. Let us strive more to comfort others than to be comforted, to understand others than to be understood, to love others more than to be loved. For it is in giving that we receive, and in pardoning that we are pardoned. That is attributed to St. Francis of Assisi. And now I'll extinguish the chalice. The chalice is extinguished, but the light goes with us out into the world. Thank you. Please join us downstairs for some coffee and fellowship, and we'll meet back up in a few minutes for circle time. Thank you.